Pawn Sacrifice, 2014 film directed by Edward Zwick, who also made Blood Diamond, starring Tobey Maguire, Liev Schreiber, Peter Sarsgaard and Michael Stuhlbarg. The film tells the very interesting story of Bobby Fischer, widely considered to be one of the best chess players in existence. The film starts with giving us a little background on his family life, his early childhood and the beginnings of his chess career, before jumping into the most fascinating period of his life, which was his adult professional career, leading up to and including the World Championship match, in which he became essentially the first American player to be able to compete against the Soviets and challenged the Russian Boris Spassky for the title. And as we explore the story of the chess games, contextualized by the politics of the time, we also see the mental problems that Fischer had been struggling with. So I think it's a really solid movie, primarily because it manages to do what the most successful sports movies do, which is that they're interesting even to people who have no interest in the sport itself. So in this case, people who are not avid chess players. Of course, for those people, there is a wealth of interesting stuff to watch, and as far as I can tell, the film is quite accurate historically speaking. But then there are two other important layers on top of just the chess. One of them is the political context, the way that Fischer became an international star and how the entire world had been watching the games, because they became, in essence, another front for the Cold War being led between the US and the Soviet Union. The government has been putting a lot of pressure on Bobby Fischer to show up and win in order to show superiority and dominance of the West, even at the price of Fischer's own health. The movie posits that Fischer has not been given the mental help that he perhaps required at the time, because it was more important for the powers that be to keep him on top of the game. In fact, the title of the film, Pawn Sacrifice, is exactly about that. It's about sacrificing Fischer on the political board as a pawn in a game between two superpowers. It can also be extended to the Russian players as well, to Spassky. We're shown how they were also kind of cogs in the machine of their country, very controlled and essentially spied on. And then the third layer is obviously the mental health aspect, the slow slip of Fischer into what can be described as insanity. Him listening to weird conspiracy theory tapes, becoming more and more paranoid about everything around him, having his weird antics affect the tournaments and the games themselves, eventually, and the relationships with other people, eventually leading to his downfall at the end of his career. And it's all the more fascinating because Fischer is shown to have been not like you would perhaps imagine a typical chess player. He was very outspoken, loud, sometimes even aggressive, definitely not the cold and calculating type in the life outside of the game. I think Tobey Maguire does a stellar job with the performance. All of the supporting cast are great as well. The film is shot with appropriate tension and with somewhat washed out color palette, which helps put you in the Cold War mindset of the era. Also sets the atmosphere for the somber tone of the tale that's being presented. I thought it was very good on pretty much all fronts. Check this one out, even if you're not a huge fan of chess. I think it's easy to like this film even then.